Now what you gonna do about that? Not going. I don't give about how you play it.
50 Cent has spent more than a decade dismantling careers from the palm of his hand without so much as breaking a sweat. No one has ever forced him to retreat. Yet when King Harris, T.I.'s 21-year-old son, unearthed secrets connected to the most agonizing chapter of 50's childhood, the world watched the seemingly untouchable rapper unravel in real time. How the entire feud ignited. 50 Cent has commanded the internet as though it owed him a personal debt for the better part of a decade. The man who survived 9 gunshot wounds and lived to tell the story, who moved staggering numbers off Get Rich or Die Tryin', who parlayed a vitamin water investment into a reported $100 million windfall, has wielded Instagram like a weapon, dropping adversaries left and right through memes, throwback clips, and captions that landed harder than anything he ever committed to wax. He dismantled Ja Rule so thoroughly that the man's career never recovered. He targeted Rick Ross for years. He trolled Floyd Mayweather over literacy. He even publicly aired out his own firstborn son, Marquise, on the platform without so much as flinching. And through all of it, through every single confrontation he has ever entered, not a single person on this earth compelled Curtis Jackson to delete a post, absorb a loss, or exhibit even the faintest sign of being rattled. That streak held for more than 20 years, until a young man from Atlanta named King Harris, barely old enough to legally purchase a drink, decided he had had enough of watching 50 toy with his family and pulled the Queen's rapper into a war that struck so close to home it reopened wounds 50 has been carrying since he was 8 years old, back when his mother, Sabrina Jackson, was taken from him in one of the most tragic circumstances imaginable. The entire situation originated from a conversation that should have remained between 2 grown men conducting business. T.I., the self-proclaimed king of the South, the trap music architect who carried Atlanta on his shoulders with projects like Trap Music and King, who survived federal weapons charges and returned stronger than ever, had been attempting to arrange a Verzuz battle with 50 for months. According to Tip, the entire arrangement was discussed directly on the $1 Million Worth of Game podcast, where 50 allegedly gave his approval before reversing course and acting as though he had never heard of the idea. T.I. laid the entire situation out transparently, explaining precisely how the conversation unfolded and how 50 played him in front of the world.
Feeling like he got played on Front Street.
So I'm gonna jump out there first, and then you just gonna jump out there and we'll line it up. And he said, all right.
That conversation was supposed to serve as the launching pad for something monumental. 2 heavyweights stepping into the ring, trading hit for hit in front of millions. Instead, it became the spark that ignited one of the ugliest feuds hip-hop has witnessed in years. Because what 50 did next left T.I. feeling as though he had been humiliated in plain sight.
I'm on front though, like, I understand if his wife would have said some or if T.I. would have said about his wife or his female or whatever, and then he responded with that, but like...
When Tip went public with the announcement, fully expecting 50 to honor his commitment, the Queen's rapper executed a complete reversal, dismissing the entire concept and declaring he would never participate in a Verzuz with someone he considered an informant. That maneuver was disrespectful on every conceivable level. T.I. felt manipulated, openly disrespected in front of the entire culture by a man he believed had shaken hands on a deal behind closed doors. So Tip appeared on Shannon Sharpe's Club Shay Shay podcast in early 2026 and held nothing back, calling 50 cowardly for avoiding the confrontation and using language that made it unmistakably clear this was no longer about catalogs or hit records. 50 Cent, remaining faithful to the playbook that has kept him relevant for 2 decades, did not respond with bars, with words, or with any direct acknowledgement of the accusations being leveled against him. He responded with a photograph. He posted a manipulated or deeply unflattering image of T.I.'s wife, Tamika "Tiny" Harris, on Instagram, attaching a caption dripping with the kind of petty, dismissive energy that has become his signature move whenever he engages with an adversary. He did not address the Verzuz. He did not address the snitching allegations. He did not even address T.I. directly. He simply attacked the man's wife, a woman who performed with the group Xscape and built her own legacy in entertainment, a woman who had absolutely no involvement in the professional dispute between two rappers feuding over a stage show that never even materialized. That single post transformed the entire energy of the situation. One commentator broke down precisely why it was such a reprehensible move and why no one could reasonably defend it.
I want to say something about my mama. Your mama dead as Your mama dead as Go dig her up. Go dig her up.
The central point was straightforward and utterly damning. 50 had received zero provocation from Tiny. She had not uttered a single word publicly about any of this. She had not posted. She had not commented. She had not inserted herself into the conflict in any capacity whatsoever. Yet 50 targeted her because he understood that attacking a man's wife would sting far worse than any punchline he could ever craft in a recording booth. That commentator was far from the only person who shared that sentiment. Across the entire internet, from Instagram comment sections to quote tweets on X to YouTube breakdowns accumulating hundreds of thousands of views, the consensus was the same. 50 had crossed a line that even his most loyal supporters struggled to endorse. Targeting a man's wife, attacking her appearance and her body simply to gain leverage in an argument about a rap battle that never occurred, that is the kind of move that invites consequences beyond one's control. Even Tina Knowles, Beyoncé's mother, posted in solidarity with Tiny, signaling to everyone that the broader entertainment world was watching this unfold and choosing sides. But the true repercussions did not come from industry figures, blog writers, or social media commentators offering their perspectives. They came directly from the Harris household, from a young man who witnessed his mother being violated in front of millions of followers and resolved in that moment that all rules of engagement were officially void. Because the instant 50 Cent posted that photograph of Tiny on his page, her son King Harris saw it. And everything that transpired afterward proved beyond any shadow of a doubt that 50 had severely miscalculated who he was dealing with and what a young man from Atlanta with absolutely nothing to lose is capable of when someone targets the woman who raised him. T.I. responded like a veteran. He handled his business the way an established figure in the rap world is expected to, through the music. Within 24 hours of 50 posting the Tiny photograph, Tip released 2 diss tracks aimed squarely at the Queen's rapper. The first, War, established the foundation and set the tone. The second, Right One, went directly for the jugular, accusing 50 of being an informant and exposing his most private affairs on wax for the entire world to hear. The bars were surgical and specific, constructed around accusations that have trailed 50 like a shadow for years. T.I. rapped about 50's personal relationships and past entanglements, employing imagery designed to strip the masculinity away from the most famously hardened rapper to ever emerge from Queens. He referred to 50 as a 5-borough dispatcher and accused him of only confronting black artists while remaining silent when white industry executives exploited the culture. Every line was engineered to chip away at the armor 50 has spent an entire career constructing around himself, bar by bar, accusation by accusation. But while T.I. was operating within the traditional hip-hop playbook, heading to the studio and releasing diss records like a seasoned general coordinating strikes, King Harris was operating on an entirely different frequency. On February 24, 2026, King released his own diss track titled Made Man, and it hit differently from anything his father had produced. The track was not polished, radio-ready, or designed for streaming playlists. It was raw, unfiltered fury from a 21-year-old who felt his mother had been disrespected on the largest stage in the world by a grown man who should have known better than to drag someone's wife into street business. Every bar on that record revolved around a single, unshakable conviction. You do not speak on his mother's name and walk away unscathed. Period. No exceptions.
Yo, mom, she dead. Pay respect. Stop playing with my mama. Playing like that, going like that.
But what propelled the entire situation into nuclear territory was not merely the track or the intensity behind it. It was what followed. Because King Harris did not stop at music. He did not follow his father's example and confine things within the traditional boundaries of how rap feuds are supposed to be conducted. He took to Instagram and launched a full-scale campaign of exposure so aggressive, so deeply personal, so entirely devoid of regard for any line that hip-hop culture considers sacred, that it forced 50 Cent into a position he has never occupied during his entire career as a public figure. And what King retrieved from the archives, what he dragged into the spotlight for every single person with a phone to witness, is what the streets and the internet would come to call 50's darkest secret. The receipts that sent the internet into an absolute frenzy. King Harris did not simply release a diss track and disappear. He transformed his entire Instagram into a command center. And what he extracted from the archives cut far deeper than any lyric ever could. First, he posted a video of Shaniqua Tompkins, the mother of 50 Cent's oldest son, Marquise, in which Tompkins alleged that 50 deliberately set fire to her house in 2008, placing both her and their son in serious jeopardy. A police report from that period corroborated her claims, though no charges were ever successfully filed. But that footage resurfacing at this precise moment breathed new life into those old allegations in front of an audience encountering them for the first time. Then came the documentation. King posted what he claimed were records connected to Lodi Mack, a deceased associate of 50 Cent, implying that 50 had cooperated with law enforcement and was genuinely fearful for his own safety during that era. In the streets, in hip-hop, in any circle where credibility carries weight, the label of informant is a career-ending and legacy-destroying designation. And King was not being subtle. He was broadcasting it from the digital rooftops, presenting alleged documents alongside video clips, constructing an entire prosecution on Instagram as methodically as a district attorney before a grand jury. But the most devastating strike was still forthcoming. King posted alleged intimate photographs depicting 50 Cent holding adult novelty items, captioning one with a pointed reference to 50's classic record, Magic Stick. The move was designed to humiliate on the most fundamental level, to transform one of the hardest figures in rap history into a meme that would haunt him through every comment section for years to come. Whether those photographs were authentic was almost beside the point. The damage was inflicted the moment King pressed post, placing that content in front of millions who had spent 2 decades viewing 50 Cent as invincible. And the reality is, once 50 crossed the line by targeting Tiny, there were no remaining boundaries to respect. He opened Pandora's box, and King charged through that door carrying everything he could lay his hands on. As one commentator articulated it, the genuine question was never whether King went too far, but why anyone expected him to exercise restraint in the first place. That commentator was stating truths that resonated across every corner of the internet. This was no longer about rap. This was not about Verzuz battles, catalogs, unit sales, or financial portfolios. This was about family, full stop. And King was not operating according to hip-hop beef protocols or internet trolling etiquette. He was operating according to the code of a young man from the south side of Atlanta who watched someone violate his mother on a global stage and determined that a proportional response was not even part of the conversation. Then King escalated to a level so extreme that even his strongest supporters found it difficult to endorse. He obtained what he claimed was a childhood photograph of 50 Cent, an image of a young boy holding a drawing, and posted it to his Instagram story on February 25, 2026. The captions were cold and calculated. How much for this pic of 50 Cent? Followed by, you are a great artist, little man, look just like Ms. Jackson ugly. How much to buy it? 50 cents. I'll pay top dollar. It ain't done yet. Then he twisted the knife one final time, asking, this your mama or pops? Directed at 50 Cent, a direct shot at Sabrina Jackson, 50's mother, who was murdered when he was just 8 years old and whose death has shaped every single chapter of his life from that moment forward. That childhood photograph was a surgical strike aimed at the most painful chapter of 50 Cent's entire existence. Sabrina Jackson was killed in 1983, and 50 has spoken about that loss openly in his music, in interviews, and in his autobiography From Pieces to Weight. That trauma is the foundation of everything he built, every wall he erected, every trust issue he carries with him to this day. By invoking her name, her face, and the manner in which she was taken from him, King was excavating the deepest wound a human being can carry and tearing it open on a public stage in front of the entire world. King followed that up with a second diss track called Sis, and those around him described it as even more ruthless than Made Man. During the rollout, King wore a t-shirt featuring Sabrina Jackson's face printed on the front, the same photograph he had already posted online. The visual was loud, disrespectful, and impossible to overlook. He was no longer merely rapping about 50's mother. He was wearing her face like a jersey, like a statement piece, like a declaration that nothing and no one was sacred in this war. The original outburst that ignited the entire firestorm was captured on camera, and King's words left absolutely zero room for misinterpretation. The raw fury in his voice made it evident to anyone watching that this was not a performance or a bid for attention. This was personal on a level most people never experience. Want to say something about my mama?
Yeah, I'm not raised like that. I don't go. I'm not going about my mom. I'm not going.
Then he elevated the intensity another degree, ensuring that everyone watching understood precisely where the line had been drawn.
Really going hard like that. Charleston White went the hardest. He made T.I. drop a diss song first.
And then King delivered the statement that became the headline on every blog, the soundbite on every reaction video, the trending clip on every platform.
Shut up. So y'all meat mangling and caught up in the middle. Y'all always want to have a horse in the race when someone has an issue with each other.
He was far from finished. King followed that up by telling 50 to go place flowers on his mother's grave instead of posting photographs of other people's mothers, calling his own mother a legend, and making it unequivocally clear that Sabrina Jackson's memory was not something 50 could use as a shield. He then drew the line that communicated to everyone that the Harris family was not to be compared to anyone 50 had ever feuded with before, stating that they operated on a completely different level and played an entirely different game. The internet was watching this unfold in real time, and the reaction was nothing short of extraordinary. 50 Cent, for what may genuinely be the first time in his legendary career of dominating the internet, began deleting posts. The manipulated photograph of Tiny vanished from his page without explanation. Other inflammatory content that had been fueling the feud was quietly removed, one post at a time. And then came a response that absolutely no one anticipated from the man who had spent more than 20 years as the most bulletproof provocateur in hip-hop history. 50 posted a philosophical quote: "To entertain is to provoke emotions. Love me or hate me, it's cool. Just care enough to feel some kind of way." Followed by what a significant number of people interpreted as a straightforward concession: "I'm out of here. You guys hurt my feelings." Whether that "hurt my feelings" line was 50 being sarcastic, playing possum, or genuinely letting his guard down for a fleeting moment became the most debated question on the internet overnight. But the facts on the ground were undeniable. 50 Cent, the same man who obliterated Ja Rule's entire career without breaking a sweat, who trolled Floyd Mayweather for half a decade without flinching once, who disowned his own firstborn son on Instagram without displaying a flicker of regret, was retreating from a 21-year-old. The posts were gone. The energy had completely shifted. And King Harris was nowhere close to being finished. "You're going to get me started again, Curtis? Just stop." King fired back immediately, making it abundantly clear that 50's attempt to exit quietly would not be honored. Meanwhile, T.I. maintained the pressure through the music, ultimately releasing 4 diss tracks in total. And T.I.'s other son, Domani, entered the fray with a track reportedly titled "I'm Sorry, Ms. Jackson," repurposing the Outkast classic into a barb aimed at Sabrina Jackson's memory. The entire Harris family was operating as a coordinated unit, applying pressure from every angle simultaneously, while 50 Cent absorbed fire from every direction with no one in his corner stepping forward publicly to offer support. The uncomfortable truth simply hung in the air for everyone to contend with. 50 understood how this game worked. He grew up in South Jamaica, Queens. He came up in the trenches. He understood the rules better than almost anyone alive. And the reality was simple. If you consider yourself genuine and you begin attacking someone's mother, you must expect that someone will fire directly back at yours. That is not a theory. That is the code. And 50, of all people, should have recognized that before he ever pressed post on that photograph of Tiny. 50 launched the first personal attack when he targeted Tiny. King delivered the last one when he targeted Sabrina. And somewhere between those two moments, The internet collectively determined that it had just witnessed the closest thing to 50 Cent buckling under pressure that anyone has ever observed in more than 2 decades of watching this man operate at the highest level of digital warfare.
Why do y'all care so much? Who's better than who and who's richer than who and picking sides?
What transpired next caught absolutely everyone off guard. From the devoted 50 Cent loyalists to the Harris family supporters to the casual observers consuming the spectacle with their metaphorical popcorn. King Harris, the very same young man who had spent days dragging 50 Cent's deceased mother through public humiliation on Instagram for the world to see, who wore Sabrina Jackson's face on a t-shirt as though it were a trophy from a battle he had won, who released 2 diss tracks and posted content specifically engineered to dismantle a man 3 decades his senior in front of millions of followers, did something that absolutely no one on either side of this war anticipated. He reached out privately to Marquise Jackson, 50 Cent's estranged eldest son, with what appeared to be a genuine attempt at reconciliation. The screenshot of that direct message surfaced on Instagram through the page Early for Traps and Trunks around February 27, 2026. In the message, King acknowledged that his words had been driven by pure emotion and that Marquise had absolutely no involvement in the feud between their families. He wrote that what he said was fueled by emotion and never needed to be said, and suggested they speak man to man, away from the cameras, the blogs, the comment sections, and the millions of eyes tracking their every move. The caption on the post posed a question to followers that split the audience cleanly down the middle. Should these two connect and put an end to the drama, or should Marquise stay completely removed from his father's affairs? The comment section erupted with well over 1,000 responses, and the divide was as vast as the Grand Canyon. Some applauded King for his maturity, calling it a commendable gesture and a sign that the young man recognized he had taken things too far. Others were deeply skeptical, warning Marquise not to fall for what they openly characterized as bait and calling attention to the glaring contradiction of someone who had just been mocking a deceased grandmother now attempting to extend an olive branch. One comment in particular resonated powerfully, observing that simply because Marquise has issues with his father does not mean he harbors no love for his grandmother, and that King's disrespect towards Sabrina Jackson was not the kind of transgression that gets erased by a courteous direct message. But whether King fully comprehended the implications of his actions or not, the maneuver was strategically masterful. Marquise Jackson and 50 Cent have been publicly at odds for years, their father-son relationship deteriorating in front of the entire world in one of hip-hop's most painful family breakdowns. 50 has openly discussed severing ties with his oldest son over child support disputes and loyalty concerns. And Marquise has retaliated by aligning himself with 50's adversaries on more than one occasion, making it painfully apparent that the animosity between them runs deep enough that it may never be mended. If King could bring Marquise into his camp, even momentarily, the optics would be catastrophic for 50. Having your own flesh and blood standing alongside the people attempting to dismantle you is the kind of blow that no diss track, no meme, no deleted post can ever undo. It would validate every single assertion T.I. had been making about 50's inability to keep his own family intact, about the tough guy persona being nothing more than a facade concealing an empty house and fractured relationships. But the internet was not prepared to let the chaos subside, and new participants were circling the situation like vultures seeking their opportunity. Charleston White, the controversial Dallas commentator who has constructed his entire brand around inserting himself into hip-hop conflicts with zero filter and zero concern for consequences, identified an opening and leapt straight through it. 50 Cent had engaged with and dropped a comment on a resurfaced video from years prior in which Charleston had gone at T.I. with reckless abandon. That interaction immediately prompted speculation about whether 50 was actively attempting to recruit reinforcements for a war he was losing on every front. Charleston White had his own extensive and contentious history with T.I., none of it amicable. Years earlier, he had publicly challenged both T.I. and Boosie to celebrity boxing matches on camera, branding himself a crime stopper and fully embracing his reputation as the one individual in the culture willing to vocalize what everyone else was too afraid to say. Charleston treated the entire potential matchup as though it were nothing personal, merely money on the table waiting to be collected. The prospect of 50 Cent and Charleston White joining forces against the Harris family was precisely the kind of volatile, unpredictable escalation that could push a social media feud beyond digital boundaries into something that manifests in the physical world. And what made it even more alarming was that Charleston had previously gotten so deeply under T.I.'s skin that Tip actually released a diss track aimed at him, something that at that juncture in the conflict even 50 Cent had not managed to provoke. The commentator who analyzed the comparison articulated it as clearly as it could possibly be stated.
Not your friends, you're a fan. Stay in a fan's place. You like this music, you like this music.
That is the reality that gets buried every single time a feud like this dominates the timeline for a week straight. People pour their entire emotional energy into waging war on behalf of celebrities who do not know their legal name and never will, choosing sides in conflicts that will never touch their actual lives in any meaningful way, while the real people involved contend with consequences that are permanent, personal, and deeply painful. King Harris has to live with the fact that he publicly ridiculed a woman who was murdered and can neither speak for herself nor defend her own name. 50 Cent has to live with the fact that he attacked a man's wife solely to provoke a reaction from someone he was feuding with over a concert that never took place. T.I. has to live with the knowledge that his wife and his children became collateral damage in a war he helped ignite by appearing on podcasts and provoking someone he knew full well was going to retaliate. Fan commentary across every platform reflected a growing exhaustion with the entire spectacle. One person wrote, "You brothers need to fall back. Keep the mothers out of the beef, alive or gone. Grow up, black men." Another questioned whether Marquise should even consider responding to King's direct message, noting that any individual willing to disrespect a deceased grandmother on Monday and extend a handshake on Wednesday might not be someone worth trusting with anything. The question looming over everything at this moment is whether this feud has reached its peak or whether the worst of it is still lying in wait, ready to surface when no one expects it. 50 Cent is renowned for being calculated, for operating in silence and then striking when his adversaries have lowered their guard. The fact that he deleted posts and went quiet may not be a retreat at all. It may be preparation. 50 possesses the resources and the connections to pull court records, to investigate T.I.'s entire legal history including the federal weapons case and probation violations, and to leverage his television production empire to transform this feud into content that extends far beyond Instagram posts and deleted memes. T.I. has already released 4 diss tracks. King has produced 2. Damani has contributed his own entry. And the combined output of the Harris family has been relentless and coordinated in a manner that no one has ever brought to 50 Cent's doorstep before. But as Jay-Z once stated, and it may be the most important observation anyone could make about this entire conflict, more important than any diss bar, more important than any leaked photograph, more important than any deleted post, any philosophical Instagram caption, or any t-shirt bearing a deceased woman's face. Nobody wins when the family feuds. And right now, 2 families are bleeding on the internet in front of millions of people who will scroll past this and forget about it within a month. The only ones emerging victorious from any of this are the platforms selling advertising space around the wreckage of real lives being torn apart in real time. That concludes this discussion. But stay with us because there is plenty more to come. Simply select any of the options on your screen and keep watching.